My name is Elena Frost, and that day was my 30th birthday. I still clearly remember that morning's light, a pale gold, warm enough not to need an extra layer, yet melancholic enough to make everything look like a memory. On the kitchen counter was the small cake I'd ordered a week in advance, with candles shaped like the numbers 3 and 0 slightly crooked because the wax melted too quickly. Beside it was the bouquet he'd chosen, the kind of flowers I'd once said I liked when we first met, off-white the wrapping paper loosely tied as if by accident. But not a single sign, no matter how small, hinted at the nightmare that was about to unfold. There was no eerie music, no howling wind, no chill running down my spine as a premonition. Only the sound of the kettle boiling and the faint smell of burnt toast. Marcus had just left for work. And strangely, he'd left his iPad on the table. He was a neurosurgeon with Monday morning surgeries at 7:30 a.m. Always rushed, always serious, always terrifyingly punctual. He said the iPad was only for looking up documents, reading medical journals, and sometimes checking crypto market news for entertainment. I had never checked it. Not because I trusted him unconditionally, but because for the past 5 years, Marcus had never given me a reason to doubt. Until the screen lit up, displaying the first notification. Wire transfer completed, $50,000 sent to the archivist. I thought it was spam email. I almost swiped past it if it hadn't been for the small line of text below Phase 2 will commence in 72 hours. I froze. My finger, still holding a glass of water, stopped in midair. My chest tightened, not from fear, but from a strange chilling sensation, as if I had just seen someone standing in the mirror who wasn't myself. I touched the notification. The screen opened, no password needed. I didn't know if Marcus forgot to lock it or if fate had decided it was time for me to see the truth. The email application was already open. The drafts folder with 3 unsent emails. I opened the first email. It had no subject, but inside were coldly typed lines. Target maintains stable routine. Confirmed no hidden cameras in bedroom. Estimated low-dose injection on Friday evening inducing hallucinations. Staircase fall accident if handled well will leave no suspicion. Note her reaction not particularly strong. No suspicion. I read it 3 times. Each word, like a burning needle, piercing my skin. The second email read, note she does not use sedatives but takes vitamin B every night. Capsules can be replaced with designated mixture. Camera currently recording sleep analysis shows 2.3 blinks per second. All traces will be cleaned. And the last line? She will be remembered as a tragic accident. I don't know when I sat down. The first feeling wasn't a shocking blow. It was an utter emptiness. As if my body had known this for a very long time. And my brain had only just caught up to the truth. Outside the window, the sun was still gentle. The kitchen clock still ticked. Everything around me was still peaceful, except for what was inside me. I don't know how long I sat still. I only remember my hands were icy cold, my lips dry and cracked, and a tiny part of me whispered a single phrase, run. But I didn't run. I stood up, opened the filing cabinet, searched for the spare key to Marcus's study, a room he'd kept locked all month, saying it was preparing a birthday surprise. I found the key taped under the fire extinguisher, as always. My hands trembled as I inserted the key into the lock. I didn't know what awaited me behind that door. But I knew one thing clearly: I was no longer his wife. I was a target. I was an insurance payout. I was a murder plan in progress. The door opened with a small metallic sound, as if it had never been allowed to be opened by anyone other than Marcus. I stood before the room he called his research room, where he said he needed absolute quiet to focus on medical studies. I had never doubted him. The door was always locked. He always sweetly said, "Love, this room is full of bloody documents. You'd only get confused looking at them." Now I knew. I was the document he wanted to study. The room was dark, the curtains drawn tight. The smell. It was the smell of old printers burning plastic and something else like sweat trapped in a sealed box for too long. I turned on the light. Fluorescent light swept across the walls. I took a step back, then another. Then I couldn't move anymore. And I was everywhere. On the wall in front of me were 4-sized printed photos taken from oblique angles without flash. There were photos of me sleeping on my side, mouth slightly open. Photos of me fastening my bra. Photos of me sitting with my knees drawn up by the window. I bowed my head, tied my hair. I closed my eyes. I smiled. I cried. Each photo had a note taped beneath it, handwritten in black ink, Marcus's handwriting. 02:44 a.m. Left eye blinks faster than right eye. 07:10 a.m. Habit of bringing left hand to cheek upon waking. No signs of suspicion regarding recording device. Neutral expression. Favorable for staging accident scene. I turned to the right. A single framed photo in a black wooden frame. Me, lying face down at the bottom of the stairs, my forehead hitting the edge of the 4th step, a pool of blood spreading beneath my head, my eyes half open, lifeless. I stared at the photo for a long time, taking a few seconds to realize it wasn't a real photo. It was a fabrication, a composite. Perhaps from a time I was sleeping on the sofa superimposed onto the stairs. Below the frame was a clear caption printed distinctly, "Plan a staircase fall." No witnesses needed, no cameras. Ideal time 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Dim night light, possible delay in calling for emergency. Survival rate below 10%. My head buzzed not from fear, but because I was beginning to understand everything. Every gesture he had made, when he leaned in close to check my forehead as I slept, when he asked if I took any vitamins, when he tried to pull the living room staircase further than usual. All of it was not love, it was preparation. I opened the drawer under the desk, found a thick stack of documents tied with twine. On top it read, "Contingency plan, no body left behind." I didn't open it. I didn't want to know, or maybe I wasn't ready yet. In the same drawer was a portable hard drive, resting on a piece of black velvet. On it was a small memory card labeled Nightcam 2024-06. I put it in my pocket. I turned back one last time, looking at the room. On the wall under the pale yellow light was a photo of me sleeping, but it wasn't like the others. This angle was taken from above, from the ceiling. That meant there was a camera above my head. Even when I slept, I froze. My chest was hollow, my throat dry and sore, and I understood. Every night I peacefully lay beside Marcus. Was every night he was secretly refining his murder plan. I wasn't a wife. I was a project, a living study, a human reflex model. And he was a scientist, but not to heal, but to destroy. I spent the entire afternoon sitting motionless in that chair, not crying, not screaming, not calling the police. I sat like a wax figure, my hand still clutching the hard drive Marcus had hidden in the drawer. I didn't know where to start. I only knew one thing. I couldn't do this alone. And so I called the last person I ever wanted to see again in this life, June. The one he had described as too obsessive, too unstable, and too many psychological issues to maintain a healthy relationship. Back then, I believed him. Now, I didn't. June opened the door in her pajamas, her hair a mess. She didn't seem surprised to see me standing there. She just tilted her head slightly, then asked in a low, husky voice, "Something happened, didn't it?" I didn't know how to answer. I brought no gift, no preamble. Just 2 trembling hands extending the hard drive, and I whispered, "I think Marcus is planning to kill me." She looked at me for a few seconds, saying nothing. Then she turned, walked inside, and opened the door for me as if she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. I told her everything, every detail. From the iPad on my birthday morning to the photo of me lying at the bottom of the stairs. I spoke while June made tea, poured water, placed tissues beside me. All movements performed deftly, as if she had sat in this exact position before with someone else in a story almost identical. When I mentioned someone named the archivist, she paused. Her hand tightened slightly around the teacup. Her lips pressed together. Her eyes changed color. "I know that name," she said softly. "I once thought I imagined him. But no, it can't be a coincidence." She stood up, pulled out her phone, opened a photo album, scrolled quickly, then stopped and handed it to me. On the screen was a photo of Marcus sitting in a bar, smiling brightly with his arm around a strange man. That man had salt and pepper hair, pale skin, deep-set eyes as cold as stone, and somehow his gaze looked directly into the camera even though the person holding the phone was standing a table away. "That's him," June said. "His name is Archivist. No one knows his real name. No social media, no trace. But he always appears alongside strange disappearances." She paused, then slowly added, "My brother was one of these disappearances." The story poured out like a flood breaking a dam. June recounted. 3 years ago, she started seeing signs similar to mine. Being followed, small things going missing, traces that seemed accidental but were always in the right place at the right time. She said Marcus had given her a doorbell camera, then suggested installing cameras inside the house for more safety after a staged break-in. Not long after her brother, who had been living with her for a few months, had a traffic accident on the exact day she was out because Marcus asked me to buy medicine. The dash cam was missing. The police said no one was behind the accident. She said she was being followed. No one believed her. "I went crazy," she whispered. "I knew he did it. But there was no evidence. And Marcus, he's perfect. He knew how to discredit me." We sat in silence for a while. Outside, a light rain began to fall. The rain was thin like a gauze covering an unhealed wound. And in that room, 2 women. One who had loved him, one who was surviving his darkness, looked at each other, as if looking into a mirror, with a crack right down the middle. I asked her, "Why me?" June gave a sad smile. "Because you have life insurance. Because you trusted him. Because you're like me, smart but easily overlook the smallest details. And because you're next." I left her house close to midnight. The rain was heavier, a large patch of my back was soaked, but my head was hot, burning, simmering. Before I stepped out the door, June handed me a USB. I don't know what's in there. It's my old drive. Maybe it's camera footage he didn't erase, or evidence he missed. But you need to know, if you've seen his name, then you can't go back to being a normal person anymore. I held the USB in my hand, and I knew this story was no longer about Marcus, but about all those who had disappeared and the man behind those clean deaths. No bloodstains, no evidence, no goodbyes. That man had a name, the Archivist. I stayed up all night sitting alone in the dark room. In front of me was the hard drive Marcus had hidden in the drawer. I knew if I opened it, I would no longer be allowed to turn back. But I needed to know. I had to know. The hard drive had no password. The first folder was named backup_LNC, probably short for Lunacoin. I opened it. Inside was Marcus's entire cryptocurrency transaction history. He started investing in 2021. At first, it was a few $100s. Then it gradually increased a few thousand, then $50,000 in a single transaction. I scrolled down. Lunacoin crashed. Marcus lost everything? And then he started borrowing money from many different sources, both legitimate and underground. I opened the next file, Debt Tracker. It was a spreadsheet tracking his debts. I read each line slowly as if each number was cutting into my skin. $10,000 borrowed from an unknown financial platform, $15,000 borrowed from someone named K, $30,000. Note failure to pay will result in tracking. In the collateral column, I saw my name, my full name, my personal email, even my ID number. I sat in silence. Even my breath became heavy. He had mortgaged me to gamble with crypto. I opened another file. The file name was life insurance _Elena _policy signed. It was a life insurance policy in my name. Value $3 million. Beneficiary Marcus Frost. I had never signed this contract, but the signature at the bottom was my name. I checked the file creation information. June 17th. That was the day Marcus invited me on a trip to the mountains, a place with no phone signal, no cameras, and no one else but us. I swallowed. My throat was so dry it hurt. And I realized he wasn't killing me out of hatred, not out of jealousy or violence either. He was killing me for money, because of debt, because he was afraid of losing everything. And I was the only ticket left for him to save his life. A life for a life. One lives, one dies. He chose to live. I plugged in the USB drive June gave me. Inside was only one video named Persistence. I clicked play. It was camera footage from June's kitchen 3 years ago. A man walked in, salt and pepper hair, wearing gloves, without a word. He was archivist, the one Marcus had paid to handle me. He silently opened a cabinet, placed something in it, perhaps medicine, perhaps a device. Before leaving, he turned and looked directly into the camera. No panic, no surprise, just looking, as if he knew someone was watching. As if he wanted to leave that gaze for me. I stopped the video. And I understood one thing more clearly than anything. I was not just Marcus's target. I was the next victim in a series of people brought into perfectly staged accidents by this person behind the scenes. And now, I didn't have much time. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I didn't scream for help. I knew if I wanted to survive, I had to play his game. Silently, discreetly, and stay one step ahead of him. I sent Marcus a short text message. Tonight, 10 p.m. Meet me at the old warehouse in the port area. No one knows about this. If you don't come, consider everything between us over. I knew that place. He had taken me there once, saying it was a secret spot to escape the world. In reality, it was a place with no cameras, no one around. It could also be where he intended to end me. But this time, I would end him. I prepared everything thoroughly. The hard drive, the USB, the fake insurance contract, the debt transaction log, the photo of Marcus with archivist. I copied everything into a folder. I sent the original to a lawyer friend, explicitly stating, "Only open if I disappear." I also sent an anonymous email with the evidence to the police and set the exact time and location. 10 p.m. I stood in the abandoned warehouse. The wind howled from the riverbank. Not a single car sound, no one passing by. I didn't know if Marcus would come, but if he did, I would see his true face for the first time. And then, he arrived. Marcus stepped out of the shadows. He wore a white shirt, his hair neatly combed, holding a bouquet of red roses, as if it were just a late-night date. His voice was still gentle as ever. "Elena, I know you're scared, but you've misunderstood everything. I held up the folder, interrupting him. "Do you have anything else to say, or do you want me to read aloud every line of the fake insurance contract you made? Or explain why there's a photo of you with an assassin named Archivist?" He froze. His hand tightened slightly around the flowers. I stepped closer, not trembling, not blinking. Did you think I didn't know? Did you think I didn't understand why you gave me vitamins every night? Did you think I wouldn't notice the camera mounted on the bedroom ceiling? I paused, looked him straight in the eyes. You chose money. I get it, but you forgot one thing. I know how to play the game, too. Footsteps echoed from behind the metal wall. 3 police officers emerged. One held an arrest warrant. Marcus Frost, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit organized murder, forgery of documents, and a tax evasion. Marcus did not resist. He just stood there, looking at me, his gaze no longer gentle, no longer loving, only empty and angry. I once thought the worst thing in life was betrayal. But no, the worst thing is to lie beside someone who wants to kill you every night. And they still smile, as if nothing is happening. From a forgotten iPad, I uncovered a perfect murder plot. Marcus, the husband I once trusted, turned out to be bankrupt from crypto investments and saw my life as his ticket to escape. No one believed me at first, except for June Marcus's ex-girlfriend, the one who almost became a victim herself. She helped me retrace every clue, gather every piece of evidence, from crypto wallets, surveillance photos, to the fake insurance contract. We were like 2 broken mirrors reflecting each other. Both had loved him. Both almost disappeared. I am not a police officer, not a detective. I am just a woman pushed to the brink and chose to survive. I silently collected every piece of the puzzle, hidden behind an indifferent gaze, and waited for the right moment when he was most confident to push him into the abyss. Marcus was arrested at the port. All evidence was submitted to the police. The footage, the contracts, crypto transactions, surveillance data, and even the video he had taken with the person behind it, all. The archivist. No one knew his real name. But now he has been exposed, and the expanded investigation has begun. On the day Marcus went to court, I sat in the front row. Not because I wanted to see him fall, but because I needed closure for myself. A clear ending, no more what-ifs. The judge announced the verdict: conspiracy to commit murder, document forgery, insurance fraud, 25 years in prison without parole. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just quietly stood up and left the courthouse with a lighter sentence: freedom. Life after that was not easy. I moved house, changed my phone number, suffered from insomnia for months, but waking up alive each morning was a small victory. June and I still keep in touch. We don't talk much about the past, just occasionally send each other short messages. I'm fine. I'm alive. I am no longer the wife who blindly trusted in love. I am a woman who once stood before death and walked out of it